Hello, Monsieur Bertaud. We're very grateful that you're here with us at Complan. Alain Bertaud is one of the greatest thinkers of our time, especially in terms of cities, city planning, zoning, all those things. No one has his experience, so it's very fortunate that he was generous enough to come here to Complan to be with us. In a few moments he's going to be doing a lecture for everyone here. Bertaud, I would like to, your book has just been translated into Portuguese, right? Order Without Design. So if you could just tell us, what does that mean? I mean, order without design, is that a contradiction?
Yes, it sounds like it, especially for architects. And I'm an architect myself as background. But what I mean is that cities should not be designed. They should be composed of buildings which are carefully designed, but the cities themselves, except the public space should be designed. But you should not have a preconceived idea of what a city should be, because the city is made on the agglomeration of individuals or firms who are in a way submitted the city to a Darwinian process, trial and errors, and we have to accept that it is trial and errors. So there is this spontaneous order in a city, and I think if you respect this spontaneous order, you have probably the most efficient city. However, of course, for instance, something like a sewer system or a transport system like a subway or something have to be designed very carefully, and not only it has to be designed, but it's top down. You cannot involve public participation in the design of your system. You have to be careful about who gets the sewer and the capacity of the sewer. But so that's this order without design means that many people think that if you do not design everything in advance, it's going to be a mess. My experience is that just the opposite. And I worked in market economy, Western Europe, United States, but I also work in the former Soviet Union when it was still very much Soviet, and in China when they were just starting the reforms of the system. So I could compare, in a way, I would say a city like Moscow or Beijing at the time, just before the reform, were more designed without order.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that it even sounds like a contradiction, right? Because we've been doing cities for 10,000 years, and a lot of the cities that we cherish and love today, they were not strictly designed in the sense that we want to design cities today, right?
Exactly. You see, basically what planners were doing before in the old cities were separating private space from public space. But they never say, on the public space you have to build a 3.5 floor, and the bathroom have to be this, or something like that. And especially also that's relatively even more recent, to separate use completely, saying you cannot have shops here, but here you can, and the shops themselves, you can sell bread here, but you cannot sell bicycles or something like that. So that's new, and I think it's a terrible idea. To this separation, this over-design of private space. Private space, of course, is to be designed, but by the individual who is owning the place and who knows more. In a way, it's because planners think that they know better. Where, for instance, where to locate a commercial area, and we don't know. And how large should it be? We don't know. So we have to adjust, we have to let the city adjust to the reality.
That's interesting. And you've been, in this trip alone, you've been to a few cities in Brazil, right? And
yes.
And you've also come here other times and visited many cities. I'm aware that you've worked here in Brazil, and so you or not? You haven't?
I never worked, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
I visited cities. I discussed a lot with planners, with sometimes mayors, but I've never really worked.
Oh, okay. That's
so it's very short period, unfortunately, because I don't think I know a city or I can know unless you work there.
But you understand, like the moment that we are in Brazil, we have a lot of cities doing, revising their zoning and planning, and you've seen this happen in other places in the world, right?
Yes.
So, what do you think would be like key let's say, mistakes that we could avoid from what you've seen in your experience elsewhere?
Well, to over-design, to really think, especially because you have those 10 years master plan. So it gives the impression to planners that you are indeed a bit like an architect designing a building, but your building will take 10 years to be built. So you build, you make a footprint, a blueprint, and then you sit in your armchair and you are just waiting for the thing to be built. And it's not like that. A city has to be managed the way a private firm has to be managed. You cannot imagine let's say, a firm like Apple saying, well, we are designing this telephone for 10 years, and during 10 years we're going to sell it, and after 10 years we're going to redesign it. They constantly adjust to demand, and sometimes, cities are constantly confronted to shocks. Some are internal. It could be riots, for instance, like we had in Paris not so long. It could be the rate of interest, could be earthquake, it could be, and some are external shocks like the price of energy or rate of interest. So the city has to adjust to that, and very quickly, and only the private sector can really adjust to it. So the city, the planners have a role also is to create the supporting infrastructure, to see how the city develop and support it with infrastructure. But do not design in detail, for instance, minimum plot size, things like that. I don't think. Some regulations are indispensable, like fire regulation. The way you connect a house to a sewer system obviously should be standardized. Not everybody should, kind of innovate on that. But anything which is land consumption, floor consumption, and location should be left to the private sector.
That's great. I hope that the governments and municipal governments in Brazil are listening, and thank you so much again for coming to Brazil, for being here with us, and looking forward to your lecture there.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to come here.